And we're on air, and we're live.
Most
Ladies and
excellent.
gentlemen, hello there, Joe Bonds here, and welcome to this week's episode of Mind, Money and Marketing, where we talk about the clues in the title, anything to do with mind, money and marketing. And I am honoured and very happy to be joined today by somebody who is going to be correcting me as we go along, because he is none other than the guru when it comes to doing exactly what I'm doing right now, which is a Google Hangout. So I would like to introduce you to the very lovely Ronnie Bincer, the Hangout Helper. Hello, Ronnie.
Hello, Joe, and thanks for introducing me that way, although my correction is only when it's wanted. I don't try to come in and take over, I promise.
Just literally 2 seconds ago, just before we went live, I'm saying, so how do I do that? And how does
Well,
that work?
in
And how do we add
in
that?
that case, I do sort of jump in there when it's urgent, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, you're phenomenal. You're phenomenal. So, Ronnie, before I do get into the meat and potatoes of how to use Hangouts and the best way to use Hangouts, and I particularly want to talk about optimizing videos today. Actually, that's going to be kind of one of our main
Okay.
subjects. I'd like to just know a little bit more about you, or I'd like the audience to know a little bit more about you. I know that your history prior to Google Plus and Hangouts, you had a big long history in teaching other people different things. I think you used Adobe products and Photoshop maybe at times, but you also had a big history at SEO, didn't you, and video marketing as a whole. So really, moving into Hangout helping was a nice kind of natural move for you, because essentially that's what Hangout is. Hangouts are video optimization. So if you could just talk us through a little bit about your history and what's led you to becoming the Hangout helper today.
You bet, and I'm quite impressed you remember those things about me. I'm flattered. So here's the deal. I started one part of my life is I did a lot of traveling all over the world, but primarily in the U.S., training people how to use software. And it was focused in the print world, and so I did a lot of Adobe training, and eventually I focused on what's called Photoshop. That was my primary program, and I did that for 12 years. So what I did is I developed a way or a skill to stand in front of a group. This was before webinars. I'm a little old, okay? These were called seminars, right? We would go and stand up in front of a group of people, anywhere from 50 to 400, and tell them how to use a program and guide them through the process. In the doing that, I learned a skill set where I had to cover the entire room's skill set. In other words, there were people that were brand new as well as people that had been using the program for years. And I had to try to keep the newbies entertained sufficiently. Oh, let me rephrase that. The old timers said entertained sufficiently, and the newbies I couldn't go over their heads, so I had to do a mix of everything. And so I refined the skill of trying to turn technology into something that people can digest and understand. And that was something, just I did it for 12 years. It was a skill I learned and developed. Fast forward a few more years, I got involved with video search engine optimization, which was a transition from regular search engine optimization, but we're just sort of jumping around here. So I got into video search engine optimization, and then out comes Google+. And to me, it's a natural transition. If you do anything in SEO, search engine optimization, then Google is sort of where you look. That's where you pay attention. And so I got right on to Google Plus when it first came out and paid a lot of attention. And then the Hangout tool came out, and it was an obvious no-brainer for me. Video and SEO can be combined quite well inside your Hangout or your Hangout on Air when it's made a video. So here I am.
So, as somebody who did all of that over those years, you must find all of the changes quite interesting now. It's I mean, even myself from a few years ago, the thought of being able to maybe build a web page or be able to record and upload a video was, gosh, way out there. It was such a massive learning curve that it was almost impossible. And nowadays, the tools that are being given to us online, everything seems to be moving towards simplifying it to make it so easy for the normal user, if you like.
I love it. You did an air quote. I love those. So yes, I do believe it's getting easier, and at the same time, its speed of change is increasing rapidly. And so to me, that's one of the challenges. It is getting easier, but it keeps changing. Like you come in after 2 weeks, and all of a sudden everything's different, and that'll happen. And so yes, it's easier, but the speed at which it's changing, I think, has increased dramatically. And I think that brings another level of concern for some people. Others that are learning how to roll with the punches, learning how to learn quickly, are embracing it and getting a great amount of value out of it, I think.
Now, just talking about Hangouts specifically, I am hearing all over the place, and I have to say I've kind of followed the trend a little bit with my advice, if you like. A lot of people are saying, hey, you've got to use Hangouts. Hangouts are really going to help you with your search engine optimization. Hangouts are going to help you get ranked. And certainly, when I've read lots of stuff on Google+, I'm certainly seeing, and we'll get to this later in the interview actually, that a general presence on Google+ is really going to start to help you with your search engine rankings, provided, of course, that presence is kind of backed up by social signals and all of that kind of stuff. But Hangouts in particular, Ronnie, is it true? Is actually doing Hangouts on Google+ going to help businesses with their search engine optimization?
Yes and no. Okay? I don't believe that Hangouts in and of themselves are the magic bullet. I do believe that the fact that it's a Google product and it ends up making a YouTube video, now you've got the two biggest search engines in the world paying attention to some degree, that's going to help a little. But it simply makes a video by the time you're done. And it's a video. It's not a special Hangout juiced up video. It's a video. Now, if you do this well, in my opinion, well, and you get interaction because it's in a social environment and you get people sharing and commenting and interacting with your video, that is what helps search engine optimization. That's what helps it show up in the search because there's activity around it. In my mind, it's not just because it's a Google Hangout. It's the fact that you've done a good job promoting it, getting interaction with it, and having people help share it. That, tied in with the fact that it's live, that's good, and that it's fresh content, that's good. All these pieces together give you value in the search engines. Technically, is it because it's a Google Plus Hangout? I don't think so. I think it's just the fact that all these parts and pieces play together to give you value. And if you could get that same amount of value out of a recorded video, except for the live part, you would have the same push, I think, than if you did it inside of a Hangout on Air.
So do you think Google are giving Hangouts any sort of little bit of just extra love just because they're, they are Hangouts and they are on Google? Do you think that Google just give them a little bit of a, extra push?
I know a lot of people really want to say that. In fact, I think there's a bunch of marketers saying that that's the way of the future. I just don't see it. I'm an SEO guy from way back, and when I try to document things, I can't see that it's telling me that. Anecdotally, I'd love to say it's true, but I just can't back it up with any research.
I mean, if you had, let's say, this is a real kind of, ball of string, crystal ball type question here, but
Yeah.
just brainstorming out loud. Let's
Sure.
say you recorded a video and you put it on YouTube, and you recorded a video and you put it on, say, Vimeo or somewhere like that.
Okay.
I suppose the question is YouTube going to give preference to the video that's on YouTube because it's YouTube part of Google over the video that's on Vimeo because it's not essentially part of YouTube?
I
What do
would
you
say
think?
yes. I do believe that YouTube favors its own network for surfacing video. Actually, I know it does because YouTube, you search inside YouTube, you're not going to get a video from Vimeo, period. But if you're searching inside Google, then it's been a pretty easy documentable fact that you're going to get more value out of a YouTube video than you will out of a Vimeo video when the search results primarily, again, it's not what most people think. It's primarily because there's more people on YouTube than there are on Vimeo, and therefore more likely more interaction, more engagement, more of the juice, as it were, going on inside YouTube than there is in Vimeo. Not because it's favoring one network over the other. but anecdotally, that's what it looks like. But I don't really think that's the reason. I think it's because of the engagement factor.
Okay, so we've done a Hangout and it's live on YouTube. And so the next step obviously is to optimize the video, whether it be a Hangout or any other video on YouTube.
Yes.
The key ways to now optimize your YouTube before I kind of start talking about, putting it on Google? What are the key ways to optimize your video on YouTube?
You're using a special word on purpose. I don't know. Key. You're saying key, right? There's key words. In my mind, they're still very valid and important. Inside YouTube, they're called tags. Okay? A keyword or a keyword phrase, if you have an idea what people are interested in searching for, and your video can be about that topic, and use those words in the titles, in the description, and in the tags, then you have optimized it to the best of your ability, especially because they're taking away some of the other options we've got with related videos and things like that. You should use consistent tags. That's one of the keys that I tell my video SEO clients. For example, Joe Barnes has a tag called Joe Barnes, Jobarnes. Okay, that's a tag that you should use on every single one of your videos, so that when one of your videos shows up because of whatever reason, your other ones are going to be listed right next to it as other options because they're related because they have similar tags. So that one little tip right there can make a big difference. You just consistently use some of your marketing tags, even though they're not necessarily related to that specific topic. They are related to the video because you're doing it, right? So that you don't want to try to fake it out, but you're putting in real tags that are consistent. And then this is another tip, the first words are more important than the second and the third and the fourth words. So if there's a certain keyword phrase that you want, this is going to sound odd, but the branding of Joe Barnes should not be at the beginning. The topic that people are searching for should be at the beginning, and then further over to the end of the title would be with Joe Barnes. Okay, because people, unless, and you might be because you're special, okay, unless you're that famous that people are going to search for your name, I would put the topic that you think they're searching for first, and then any branding after that.
Yeah, not only that, but it's just so much more user friendly as well. Even on advertising, you advise people put your brand at the bottom. People are they're much more interested in what's your product or service going to do for me rather than who you are.
I think so. When you're big and famous and you're Coca-Cola, you're going to stick Coca-Cola right up front. But otherwise, you're an average person. I think the topic should be first.
Yeah. Okay, so coming back to Hangouts, I've got a couple of questions and I'm trying to think how to put them so that they're not really complex. What I'm trying to figure out in my head, and I'm hoping that my audience are thinking the same thing, is if I do a Hangout like the one I'm doing with you now, and this goes live on YouTube, okay? To optimize this on YouTube,
we just say it's
a Hangout on air. Yeah.
Right.
So what I'm now going to do is after the interview, if I was going to do my interviews this way, I would go over to YouTube, I would go into the title, the description, the tags, I would then put in the relevant information and optimize this Hangout. Okay, so therefore I would know how this Hangout was being searched for on YouTube. How does that affect what's going on inside Google Plus? So for instance, one of the things I hear people saying is that you can really take advantage of the Google Plus network at the moment because it's still growing. So depending on your industry or niche, if there isn't that much competition yet in your industry or niche and you're doing Hangouts regularly on something specific in your industry or niche, then you're more likely to get found if people are searching for you in the actual Google Plus network. Is that true? Is that the case?
I would say yes, and again, it's not necessarily for the reasons many people think. It's not because you're doing a Hangout, but it's because you have become known as someone talking about that topic. And if they're interested in that topic, Google Plus is giving you what's called authority or trust in that topic because more and more people are interacting with you around that topic, and that's why you get found, not just because you're doing a lot of videos. So if you do the thing you're supposed to do, is become known for knowledge in an area and interacting with other people that are similarly knowledgeable in that area, you're going to get more trust. And that trust translates to when someone's searching within Google Plus on that topic, you and your stuff shows up higher on their search results. Think of Google Plus, it's another search engine. And because it's based on the trust and the value that you've brought to the community in that niche, that's why it shows up, not just because you're doing lots of Hangouts. Now, if you are doing lots of Hangouts and you are giving the video the right titles that are related to that topic and you're interacting around that topic, then it's a win-win-win, and everything you do starts to show up higher up on the search results.
So it's really, I mean, it just comes back to everything you do on social media. It's all about engagement, isn't it? It's all about getting that interaction.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So my next question then, Ronnie, is the way I'm doing these particular Hangouts at the moment is I'm recording them live.
Okay.
But then what I'm doing is I'm actually making them unlisted on YouTube. I'm deleting them from Google Plus.
Okay.
I'm then downloading, editing in order to add my little intros and outros, and I'm re-uploading. Right. Now, by doing that, am I losing any juice along the way by doing that?
Not the way you're doing it. If I did it that way, I would lose juice. The reason why is different. You didn't tell anybody that you were planning on this thing happening. So this is, you're using the tool to record automatically for you, and the amount of people watching live and interacting live is not part of your equation, right? Isn't that true? Okay.
That is
when
true.
When I do them, I make a big deal out of it. I make an event, and I tell everybody, this is coming a week from now. This is what we're going to be talking about. Sign up, and let's get going. And add your questions and your comments, and I do this crowd interaction thing live. That means the live activity is valuable. Therefore, if I were to shut it down, edit it, and put it back up again, I would lose some of the traction that I had built by doing all this pre-show promotion. So it really depends on how you, what I call package. You package your Hangout on Air. Yours, you're doing the Hangout on Air to simply make a video. You're not doing it to broadcast a live webinar kind of session thing. Whereas mine, I tend to do it that way. I make it an event, and I have people come and get ready for it, and before, during, and after, we talk about it. That is going to have a bigger effect whether I remove it and then replace it than the way you're doing it. You're simply making it as a video, and that's a tool to make a video. And so there's really not going to be any impact on yours where there would be on mine technique.
Oh, okay, this is great. Okay, so basically what's happening then is that all of my work, if you like, for optimization and being able to try and get a bit of a push is going to be in all of my post-video promotion. So as soon as I re-upload it, all of my optimization, how I then share it, try and get engagement on it, try and get people to interact with it, all of that kind of stuff, that's what's going to push my video up the search engine rankings.
Correct.
You're talking about is if you actually host a live event and you get lots of interaction on that event, then essentially you're beginning your SEO campaign, if you like, even before you've recorded the event itself, because you're beginning to get interaction on that actual, the whole thing, as opposed to just the video.
That's exactly correct. Yep.
So that actually sounds to me, I mean, the pros and cons for the guys watching, here's the pros and cons. The reason I'm doing it my way is because I'm trying to interview people from across the globe and to be able to create these interviews, and it's very difficult to try and organize people at a specific time every single week, you know, especially when they're right across the world. However, I can see that there are significant benefits to hosting a live event. You know, I mean, what would you say, once a week or once a month? Does it matter? Just consistently hosting a live event every so often? Do you think that will assist in your profile on Google Plus and help you in the search engines?
I know it's helped me. That's all I can say. Yes, I think it really does. Consistency is something that YouTube's been harping about for years. So having a consistent show is beneficial. It's kind of like a TV show. Everybody tunes in at a certain day and time. Um, the other thing, the live interaction, I think, is what really, really tips the scales in the favor of a live event. Because if I bring the comment of a person that's watching it live right onto the screen, that is massively impactful, because what it means is the person, even though they're not in this little, what's called the film strip, the thing down as part of the Hangout on Air, they are able to be part of the show because I brought their comment right there onto the screen. What that
Hmm.
does socially, that's the right word, is it simply allows someone else that's not in the show to be in the show, and therefore their comment was honored by being visible, and we answer it, and that's going to make other people want to ask questions so that they can get their comment and question answered, and that brings more and more interaction. And then the next show, you get more people saying, hey, Joe did it last time, I'm going to try it this time. And then on and on and on, it just grows, and the fury causes the activity to grow, which means next time those friends are going to share it with their friends and say, come to the show, I got my question answered last time, you can get it this time, and it spreads. That's the interactive element of this live interaction that, unfortunately, the way you're doing it, you don't have for this method, but some of the ones that you might be able to do, you could take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen you talk before about the importance of doing an event. So it's not just to hang out on air, you do actually create the event and you go out and you share the event. Can you just share a little bit about why it's so important to do it within that event
Sure.
feature? I'm just going to do that
Yeah, the air quote thing,
coming again.
yes. Yeah,
That event feature
exactly. Yeah.
inside Google Plus.
Right. Now let me explain a little bit about it. I meet with people on a regular basis, and we do consulting. That's how I make my living. Um, and one of the first things people will ask is, how do I make this found? How do I get my Hangout on Air active and found and interacting with and all that stuff? And I try to ask them, who's your target? And they're like, well, I just want to know how to do it. I said, no, what's your target audience? Who cares about what you do? And if they tell me it's all on my website, that's where they are, then I tell them, great, let's do your Hangout on Air on your website. And they say, but that's not how you do it, Ronnie. And I said, that's right, because they're not my target. My target is Google Plus users, because I talk about a Google Plus tool, right? So that's why I specifically focus on the event tool inside Google Plus, because that's my website. If you could think of it that way, that's where people are watching me. So depending on where they're going to be watching, or you think the majority are going to be watching, that's a good place to do your show. So with that said, it doesn't apply to everybody this way, but with that said, I use the Google Plus event tool because it allows me to advertise before, during, and after the show. We can tell people this is coming at this date and time, get the comments rolling, the questions coming in. While it's live, I bring those right onto the screen. Once it's over, I go back and I add more answers to the questions I couldn't get live because I get too many. And then we get interaction, and people are sharing it with other people and saying, hey, did you see the show? Ronnie talked about this. Go watch it there, even after it's over. So it's before, during, and after. It's a landing page, if you think of it that way. The event tool I use as a landing page, and it works wonderfully for live shows.
Now let's just talk about invites for a second, because I went onto Google Plus this morning, obviously, to start this hangout, and I noticed I had an invite from you for an event coming up. When you invite people to your events, have you got, do you sort of allocate specific circles? Do you have specific circles where you know those are people that are essentially interested in your subject? Or, I
Yes.
mean, obviously you do.
Yeah, well, here's what I do is uh, it's going to sound conceited, but I do Google Plus right. In other words, I've spent 2 years learning how to do this, okay? And I've gotten rid of some bad techniques, and I've adopted, as far as I know, all the good ones. And the good ones mean this. I go and I find people that are interested in my topic, and I go watch them. I watch them, and I interact with their posts. I plus mention their name. I add a comment. I reshare their post. I interact with their stuff. That gets their attention. Then they start interacting with my stuff because we're talking about similar things. There's a level of compatibility, let's say. And then we eventually realize, you know, we're both benefiting each other by doing this, so let's keep it up. And what I'll do then is I'll say, I'll reach out to them and say, I noticed that you shared my post 5 times over the last week, and you commented a lot. Would you like to be in a circle that I alert about my Hangout on Air activity? And they'll say yes, or they'll say no, and I appropriately add them to a circle. I also go to my events, and when I do an event, I might have 200-300 people show up. I go through the comments later. I was just doing that again today. This is for an event I did last week. I went through and I saw this person's question seems to be a legitimate one. They really do need to know or want to know about Hangouts. I'm going to add them to a Hangout circle. This is not opt-in. This is me harvesting data based on their comments. And so I add them to a circle. I've got right now about 700 people that I know, because of their actions, are interested in Hangouts and Hangouts on Air. So now I've got different circles that are focused on a topic. So when I'm doing a show that's talking about something that's important to the people that care about Hangouts on Air, I invite them to the event. So because I know they're interested. I've already figured that out. And as a result, you'll get a group of people that are, yes, I'm going, maybe I'm going to come, no, I don't want to go, and I just haven't looked at it yet. So you get 4 categories of people with the event tool. And the event tool, by the way, is a marketing dream, because I can send a different note to each one of those categories. If the show's on Friday, on Thursday I can say, hey, I saw that you said yes, you're coming. I just wanted to thank you and tell you that we're going to have a special deal if you make sure you show up, so don't forget. These are the people that said yes. I'll send a different note to those that said maybe, and I'll say, I hope you can make it, but if you can't, it is going to be recorded, so don't forget, but I'd really love to see you there live. Okay? So you send a different message to each category of attendance, and that's one of the options that the what they call the event tool has that you may or may not have in other environments where you're just hosting your show. So yes, I definitely send invites or invite people to the show that I know that are interested. And here's another key. I tell them in my comments or in my description area, I say, hey, if you know someone interested in this, invite them. Feel free to invite them. I give other people the option to invite other people. If I didn't, it wouldn't be anywhere near as much fun.
What's interesting, actually, I've got a few points there you've mentioned that's very interesting. The first one is that Facebook used to have that in their event tool. They used to have the ability to message the people that had said yes, people that had said maybe, people that had not answered yet, and then they got rid of it. And quite frankly, since they got rid of that, their event tool hasn't been anywhere. You know, I hardly use it anymore, because that was one of the most powerful things about it, being able to message the different people that had, you know, wanted to come or not. But what I do find interesting there is how you are segmenting your circles, and it is a little bit like an email list. It's like people are
exactly like an email list.
Yeah, they're showing their interest to your content, and then you're essentially segmenting them and putting them into lists that you can then invite to certain things that you know are going to be of interest to them. So
and I go above and
social media.
I go above and beyond that a little bit, because just because you're interested in Hangout on Air doesn't mean you care that much about what I'm doing. Okay? But if I see you and you're sharing my stuff every single time I put a post out about Hangout on Air, I pay attention to that. And then I reach out to you privately and I say, Joe, I see you really like my stuff, it appears. Would you like to be alerted only for the ones that I think are really important? I don't do this a lot. I will not spam you, but just so that it's easier, because there's so much stuff that goes on, would you like me to send you an alert for the ones I feel are the most important? And if you say yes, you get added to my special opt-in circle. And I also point out to people, anytime if you think that I'm giving you stuff you don't want and you want out, let me know. No hard feelings. I'll remove you from the circle. You still see my stuff on your own. You just won't be alerted by me. And that I found to be very
Yeah,
valuable, very, very
yeah.
valuable.
Well, it's a great way of marketing. I mean, it's it's based on it's totally based on building a great relationship with people, with your potential customers. So,
Yep.
which is what brilliant marketing is all about. Let's be true. Um, Ronnie, I don't want to. I just want to talk a little bit before we go. I just want to talk a little bit about Google Plus generally,
Okay.
just because recently, I know what you and I have spoken about this before,
Mm.
but recently I have been asked by people, Joe, is it really important? Do you think right now for me to be on Google Plus? Should my business be over there on Google Plus? I know what my advice is, but if I just asked you that question, what would you say to somebody asking you that question?
I may have said this before, so it's redundant, but some people are hearing it for the first time. I will ask someone this. I'll first off by saying, is google.com, meaning search, is that important for your business? And if their answer is no, I don't think so, then I say, okay, we're done. Let's talk about something else. But if they say yes, it's important for my business, obviously it's important for my business, then I say, okay, how do you spell Google Plus? Okay, and that's about all that I need to do for most businesses to say, okay, I get it, I get it, and then they understand a little bit more. And if they want more clarification, I'll give it to them. But that basically is the bottom line. Not everyone has time to work with every single environment out there. You just don't. You've got to run your business. You just don't have time. So the key is what's going to give you the most bang for your buck. I learned early on as an SEO guy, because that's how I approached this, that the work I did on Google Plus was affecting search results much faster, much more efficiently than anything I had ever done before. And I had done it for 7 years. Okay? And so I decided, okay, this is the place to be. It's obvious for me. I don't necessarily care if my competitors don't want to be over here. I'm okay with that. I'll find the new people. I'll let
I'm all
them
right with
find
that.
me, and we'll just have a party. It works out fine for me.
I saw a post a few days ago with somebody having a big old go at Google Plus. Yeah, that it's getting complex. There's things that are missing. There's things they're changing. And I mean, I have to be one of the first ones to put my hands up and say that on Google Plus, I do find it complex to navigate. I find the notifications challenging. I find the different columns a bit challenging. And as far as Google communities go, oh, I never know when somebody's commented or they haven't. I do find them very challenging to navigate, and I do hope that as it grows, Google will listen to its users and find ways. I mean, all social media, every business has to grow and evolve and
Sure.
change in line with feedback from its users. But one of the things that one of the comments was, oh, it's just getting like Facebook, right? And it's getting way too noisy and there's too much rubbish coming through. And then one of the other comments was, I'm just getting fed up with all the bozos that are now, finding Google Plus and starting to come on there and share all the rubbish, like the memes and the pictures and the
Yep.
whatever. Do you think that people, certainly the early adopters of Google, not wishing to upset anybody here, but do you think that the early adopters of Google Plus are a bit snobby towards people coming on board?
I think there's a degree of that. Yeah, sure. I think that's just human nature. But what I would say is for anybody that's getting concerned about what they're seeing and they don't like what they're seeing anymore because it's less pure, right? I say you simply need to go clean up your circles. Because here's the deal. Google Plus allows you to see what you want to see. So if you are looking at what's called the home stream, that home stream is made up of your circles. It's not the world, it's your circles. So if you are seeing garbage, take the people that are posting the garbage out of your circles, and then you won't see it anymore. That's one
Mm.
of the beauties of what's called the public stream. It's not truly public, it's filtered around what you have in your circles. So if you're seeing crap, get rid of the people that are bringing it in, and you're going to have a cleaner environment. And another tip, that's just the public home stream. Another tip is if you focus in a certain niche. Let's say you focus in video marketing. Okay, video marketing. So you find 600 people that talk about video marketing. That's a circle. You put them into a circle, and then you say, hey, I want to just see what the video marketing people are talking about. You view your home stream based on that circle and that circle alone, and that's exactly what you're going to see. Is everybody talking about video marketing? What are they saying? Then you shift, and you're talking about dog biscuits, because I happen to have one right here. Okay? So you have a circle about dog food manufacturers or whatever, and then you just say, I only want to see what they're talking about. So you actually can control very, very accurately what the conversations are that you're looking at. So really, when people say it's getting too much like some other place that they don't like, that simply means they need to modify who they've got in their circles so they don't get the garbage that those people are bringing in. You just take them out of your circle. You don't see their stuff.
So where's the best place for people to go to learn a bit more, Ronnie, about Hangouts and about Google+? Where can we find out a bit more about you and what you're up to?
Right there. Okay? I just turned on what's called the lower third. I adjusted it so that it shows you. I've built a new place called thehangouthelper.com. That's not as much new as the membership portion of it. So there's free stuff on thehangouthelper.com, but there's also a paid environment where we help people keep up. So my expression is sign up to keep up, because as you're saying, it does change, and it will change, and it will continue to change. And I believe it is getting better overall, and I know, I promise you, I know that I get more interaction with the Googlers, and they do listen and make adjustments. There's certain things that I can't say, but bottom line is they do make changes based on customer feedback. Way more than I've ever seen in any other environment. Now, it is Google, and they have a history of being Google, okay? So little by little, you're going to see that when there's enough of an outroar or uproar about something, that they end up making a modification if it's not contrary to what their goals were. And I have seen things being reversed and upside down and changed and modified back to something that worked better in incredible ways. So I'm not going to say they're perfect, but just like anybody you really, really like, there's things about them that you're not so you'd like to have changed, right? That's just the way it is. So I've found my time on Google Plus to be more rewarding and more interactive with Googlers than I ever had before in any other social environment, period.
Fantastic. Well, I applaud you, and I urge people to go to thehangouthelper.com/members and find out more information. Keeping up to date with social media is just gosh, you know, you really have to applaud anybody who does it. I much prefer to now highlight what other people are doing, because I don't want to record another social media course ever, because the minute you record them, they change.
Sure. And that honestly, that's one of the things, and I think your viewers know this already. They have their area of focus. And if there's a tool, like the Hangout tool is something that you need to help you communicate your area of focus, you don't need to learn everything about it. Find me, let me help you know what it is, and then move on to get your message refined and communicated. And then when it changes again, find me again, and we'll get you updated. That's the thing I do. I focus primarily on the Hangout tool because it's changing, and I have to keep up with it. So I help people understand, what does this change mean to you, and do you need to worry about it? This one doesn't matter. This one makes a big difference. You know, that kind of thing.
Actually, Ronnie just made an absolutely super important point there. Your job is to run your business. Your job is to get out there and service your customers and be the best you can be. Your job isn't to have to learn every single small detail about the different social media platforms. So where you can, make sure you get connected and hook up with those people that do spend 24 hours a day on these social networks learning all the different things, so that they can give you the stuff that's super important to your business. So when this video goes live, there will be links underneath the video here on my blog. One of them will be to the hangouhelper.com, hangouhelper.com/members. The other one will be to Ronnie's profile on Google, and I urge you to, at the very least, go and connect with Ronnie and go and find him on Google and start watching his posts and everything in your stream so that you can keep up to date with what's going on. Now, before we go, Ronnie, I do like to leave this show with a nice sort of inspirational message, something maybe that's inspired you in your journey, whether it's been a book or a film or a quote or a person, something that you can maybe share with our viewers to help them and inspire them in their journey.
Wow, there's been a lot. Probably the first two things that come to mind, I'll just make them real quick. One is a book that I wish I had read when I was younger, but I couldn't have because he hadn't written it yet. Okay, it's called Rich Dad Poor Dad. You ever heard of Rich Dad Poor Dad? It helped it. Right. It helps you understand money in a different way than you might otherwise. And I think had I read that sooner, it would have been able to have a bigger impact. It already did have a big impact, but there's X number of years that you need to let that impact ferment or happen. Anyways, Rich Dad Poor Dad, really, really good book. Very simple, but helps you think about money in a different way. The second thing is hangouts. When they started happening, I saw one person that impressed me like none other, and that was Sarah Hill. Sarah Hill is someone that you should follow just because she does such a wonderful job with hangouts. At the time, she was working at NBC, a TV station. She was a newscaster, and she brought hangouts in to the live news broadcast. And I was so impressed in how she did that. She had one ear the producer, another ear the hangouts, and in front of her was a teleprompter. And I was like, how do you do all that? She's like, what? I don't know. Just do it. And she said this, and I'm paraphrasing her, but she said, I wanted people to be able to yell at the TV and I could answer back. So she's the broadcaster saying something, and she wanted to hear the peanut gallery telling her what we thought of what she said live. And I was like, aren't I supposed to be quiet while you're doing your show? She said, no, I want you to actually talk to me live. The audience out there is not going to hear it, but I hear it in my ear, and it helps me know what your response is. And I was like, wow, this is new. I like it.
Impressive. Very impressive. Especially with all the things she probably has to think about in the studio to have, to have the viewers actually in her ear as well.
Yeah. Well, she's moved on. She doesn't work at NBC anymore. She moved on to another company, and what she does, she's a chief storyteller using what she calls human media. It's just, these are some of the terms that she does. I think she's a phenomenal seer of the future of what Hangouts are all about. Really, really cool stuff. Sarah Hill.
There you have it, guys. So go and follow Sarah Hill. I'll also put a link to her profile underneath this video as well, so that you can go and circle Sarah. Ronnie, what can I say? Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to speak to you, and it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you again this morning. You've opened my eyes again even more to some of the things that we can do with Hangouts and Google+. So thank you very much for joining us. Fantastic. Thank you for having me. All right, guys, thank you for joining us on another episode, and I will see you next week.